Right, in this video we're going to look at factorising quadratics. It's going to be factorising some simple quadratics. So basically we won't need to use the quadratic formula. If you need to factorise using the quadratic formula, take a look at the video I've done on that. Right, first thing is the x squared. We want to think about what number is in front of the x squared. If there isn't one there, it's a 1. So we got 1x squared plus 13x plus 42. Labeling these, the a term is going to be the 1, it's whatever's in front of the x squared. The b term is whatever coefficient is in front of the x. And the c term is going to be the number on its own, which is 42. So, step 1 is very straightforward. We're going to do a multiplied by c. A is 1, c is 42. So that answer is 42. Now we're going to take this 42 and we're going to see what factor pairs of 42 add to give the b term. So this 13 here. Well, with 42 we've got 1 and 42, 2 and 21. None of these add to give 13. So we keep going. We've got 3 and 14. We have got 6 and 7. Now if we look at the 6 and 7, they do add to give 13. So I'm going to use these two. So step 3 will be to rewrite our quadratic. It'll be x squared. Now the 13x, we're going to split that into 6 and 7. So plus 6x plus 7x plus 42. It's the same quadratic, only difference being that we split this 13 into a 6 and a 7. It doesn't matter which way around you put the 7 and the 6, either way will work absolutely fine. So, step 4 will now be to start factorising. And because we split it into 4 terms, we can factorise 2 terms at a time. So, we'll do the x squared plus 6x first. X is common to both, so that goes outside my bracket. And inside we want to get back to x squared, so it'll be x times x is x squared, and a plus 6. X times plus 6 is plus 6x. We'll do exactly the same with the second 2 terms. 7 will divide into both of these, it's the highest common factor. So I put plus 7 here. There isn't a letter common to both of these, so I don't need to put a letter outside. 7 times something is 7x, so it must be 7x. And 7 times plus 6 gives us plus 42. Now at this point what you should note is we've got the same terms in both brackets. That tells me that I've done it right. If these were in any way different, I've done something wrong, so I need to check back over it and probably redo something. But for now we're good. Step 5, and it is the last step, so tidy this up. Because we've got x multiplied by everything in the bracket and 7 multiplied by the same thing, we can write x plus 6 down once, and we can multiply it by everything outside the bracket, which is x plus 7, and that is our quadratic factorised. We could check it by expanding the brackets, as you'll have done before. X times x is x squared, so this is our check. X times 7 is plus 7x. 6 times x is plus 6x. And 6 times 7 is plus 42. Simplify it and we get back to our original quadratic. So essentially factorising is the opposite of expanding. To factorise we need to put it back into brackets, and there's your solution. Let's look at one more example, a slightly more difficult one. So you should notice that first of all, first difference is that the a term is no longer 1. to 3 this time. The b term, we've got 13, but it's not just 13, it's a minus 13. That is significant. We're going to have to be careful when we're working out what factor pairs to use to create that 13. And the c term is a plus 10. So step 1, as you will recall, would be the a term multiplied by the c term. So we've got 3 multiplied by 10, which is obviously 30. Step 2, we want the factor pairs of 30, which we're going to add to minus 13. So we could have minus 1 and plus 30. Minus 30, I should say. That would give us a positive 30 when we multiply, but it gives us a negative 31, so that's no good. We can also use minus 2, minus 15. When we add these two together, it'll give us a minus 17, but we need minus 13. So we keep going. We've got minus 3, minus 10. Multiplying these, it'll give us a positive 30. Add them together, it does give us the minus 13. So we'll use these factor pairs. And step 3 is splitting that minus 13, the b term, into these two numbers. So 3x squared, and again, which way around you put these doesn't really matter, minus 3x minus 10x, and there's a plus 10 at the end. Step 4 is where we start to factorize. So we will do 3x squared minus 3x first. See, what's the highest common factor of 3 and 3? Well, that's obviously 3. Think about, is there a letter common to both? There is, the x. And open up your brackets. 3x times something is 3x squared. That something needs to be an x. 3x times minus 3x. Well, we're going from a 3x to 3x, so that'll be 1. It's a positive to a negative, so this would have to be a negative 1. Let's just change the sign. If you remember back to last time, if we're correct, we need to get x minus 1 in this bracket as well. So, first thing I'll look at is highest common factor of 10, and 10 is obviously a 10. Don't worry about the signs yet. Let's just get our numbers correct and any variables. There is an x in this term, there isn't here, so open up your brackets. Now I know that if I'm going to be right, this needs to be x minus 1, so I'm going to put this in. 10 times x does not give me minus 10x. This would have to be a minus. Minus 10 times minus 1. Well, 10 times 1 is 10. And negative times a negative is a positive. So this does need to be a negative 10 outside the bracket. And we've got the same terms in both brackets, which means we're good to move on to step 5. Step 5 is just your tidying it up basically. X minus 1 in brackets we write down once. And then in the second bracket, it's everything outside the brackets. 3x minus 10. And there's our solution. And again, we can do our quick check just to make sure we're right. If we are correct, when we expand these brackets, we should eventually get 3x squared minus 13x plus 10, which was our original quadratic. X times 3x is 3x squared. X times minus 10 is minus 10x. Minus 1 times minus 1 times 3x is minus 3x. Minus 1 times minus 10 is plus 10. Simplify these two in the center. We end up with 3x squared minus 13x plus 10, which is what we needed to have. So this is correct. Remember, for quadratics, you cannot factorize like this. you will need to use the quadratic formula, so have a look at the video on that one.